if it comes to the point where I see Matt Olson there, and I know that Bryce Harper and Pete Alonso are still waiting in the wings, like maybe a round or two later, I think I'm passing on Matt Olson.
Every home run after home run after home run, I'm like, holy crap, like, it's the old Altuve, you know?
I'm going after guys like Austin Riley that's going to hit close to 40 home runs with a decent bat.
It has nothing to do with the luxury tax or any of that stuff. It's just the owners want to bring a champion to a team. They're going to do whatever it takes.
All right, welcome everyone to Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. Appreciate you guys checking in. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. As most of you are noticing, Javi is not here today, so Kevmo stepped in. He's helping me out to be my number 2 today. I appreciate you being here, Kevin.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Always fun.
Yeah, man. Today we have a good show, guys. Today on the show, we have the top 12 starting pitcher rankings. There were some rule changes from 2023 that kind of impacted a lot in the game, you know, and especially for starting pitching. We'll get into that for each individual player. Before we do that, two things I want to mention is that we do have a fan league for anyone that wants to get in. We are about halfway full right now. It's a head-to-head categories league. There's a prize for the winner. Possibly more than one prize for the winner, maybe second place. I don't know. We haven't decided yet. There is no entry fee, so you don't have to worry about putting money down. Just send us a message on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you guys follow us, and we'll get you in that league. So the grand prize is going to be a custom Real Talk Baseball Fantasy Champion jersey, and maybe a couple other things along the way, a shirt, a hat. You know, we'll figure it out as we go. So that is the first thing. The second thing that I want to mention is in the bottom right corner, you guys see sponsored by Rival Fantasy. So our show just got sponsored. We are very excited about the 2024 season. Get the show on the road. So I want to show this real quick. So Rival Fantasy, they are innovative. Like they came up with this fantasy bingo that looks really fun to play. You get your own game card, and you can, whatever happens through the games during the day, that'll highlight for you. So you just pick your card, and then, the computer does all the rest. There's challenges, daily challenges that you guys can do, where it'll give you 2 different players to choose from, and you just choose one of the players that you think is going to get more fantasy points for the day. There's best ball. There's a lot of different types of cool things on this site. So go to rivalfantasy.com or download the Rival Fantasy app. Use code RealTalkBaseball, and they will match your first deposit up to $200. So you can actually have $400 deposited in your account. So, that's pretty awesome, man. I actually can't wait for the baseball season to start doing those challenges. I think those daily challenges sound really fun.
Yeah, those sound awesome. I've done some stuff like that on like different apps and whatnot. So I'm definitely getting in here on the Rival Fantasy, getting in as much as I can. Those things are really cool. So you guys check them out, and who knows? Maybe on the podcast we can like put one of our favorites like going into the weekend or something. And
yeah, that's actually I wanted to kind of do like a daily show, a daily episode where it's only going to be just a couple minutes just to go over the daily challenges that they have available, kind of give my picks for the day, and if someone's watching the live, hopefully they'll go to Rival Fantasy and they'll sign up, and maybe they'll take my advice, maybe they won't, but hopefully everyone wins some money. That's what it's all about.
It'll be fun for sure.
All right, going into our starting pitcher rankings, and starting pitching, dude, like I just mentioned, the rule changes, like it changed the game. Bigger bases, so there's a lot of guys that are being safe at first when they weren't originally, because there's an extra like 3 inches, so the bang bang plays aren't so bang bang anymore.
Right.
And the pitch clock, there's been a lot of different players, a lot of starting pitchers that don't like the pitch clock at all. They feel like it messes up their rhythm. They have their own little unique things that they do. I know Zack Greinke, he likes to touch his mouth and touch his glove back and forth like 5 times. Batters do the same thing. You see Bryce Harper adjusting his gloves every single time he after a pitch is thrown. It's the Velcro didn't move at all, but it's a ritual, that's how baseball is. And it definitely did mess up some things, regarding starting pitching and batting. Um, Limited pickoff attempts, that's another one that kind of like gets into the psyche of the pitchers. They're thinking of, oh, this guy's going to steal on me because I already threw over 3 times, and then banning of the shift that also hurt a lot of ground ball pitchers. A lot of these pitchers that have heavy sinkers or changeups that try to get those ground balls, they're actually benefiting from, or they're not benefiting from this. It's actually a disadvantage for them because a lot of those batted balls that used to be just fielded very easily are now actually finding gaps and finding holes to get in the infield. So unfortunately, starting pitching was on a decline last season. We saw the league-wide ERA go from 4.05 in 2022 up to 4.45 in 2023. And the league-wide whip in 2022 was 126, went up to 131. So that one didn't change too much, but the ERA, definitely, that's 40 points, man. That's a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And also durability. I mean, that's obviously a trend going on in general. But with pitchers' innings, there were only 5 total pitchers that threw over 200 innings last year. And I saw something like in 2019, it was like 15 pitchers. So that's 10 pitchers. 20 PS. One of those 5 was Miles Michaelis. So it's not the high end guys.
I did see that.
Yeah, 25 total pitchers with over 180, and then only 15 that hit the 190 marker. So that's pitching is going to be something that is obviously a huge part of it. It's half the categories in categories leagues for the most part. They depending on what, the kind of league you're in and whatnot, but it's definitely something that's huge. But it's a tricky thing to tackle. One thing I will say is going into your draft, know your league settings. It is going to be, I mean, that's for everything, but for sure for pitching, you need to know if quality starts matter more, or if, whip matters, or whatever it is, because that totally can change the ranking of your pitchers. From a guy can be at like 10 spots different from those little things. So take what we say with a grain of salt, in the sense that match it, cross-reference it with your league stuff. You might have to put in a little bit of work, but you don't want to go our number 10 guy for sure, and then it's depending on your league, he might be actually your number 5 guy and you missed out on him or something.
Yeah, most of the time on this show, we geared more towards points leagues. But if you're in the categories league, a lot of times I try to, throw in there like a little bit of, categories versus points. If I value a different player higher, whether it's categories or points, like a guy that has a really high strikeouts, like Aaron Nola, right? Mm-hmm. Aaron Nola is much more valuable, I think, in points leagues versus in categories, because in categories he's just going to make your ERA implode. Right. Yeah, and that's one category that you might lose just because of that one guy. Versus points, that's he may give up 4 runs, right? But that's only a -1, and depending on how your settings are, just like Kevmo said, just pay attention to those settings and kind of like draft accordingly. Right. First guy we have on the list, and I believe he is the first on every list, and that's Spencer Strider, who you have in our keeper league.
Yes,
bastard.
Sir. Yes, sir. Spencer Strider, what a stud! 20 wins, 13.5 K per 9, under 3 walk per 9, 3.86 ERA. So again, it's not bad. It's pretty good. 281 total strikeouts, 1.09 whip. He is a 2-pitch pitcher, but from my understanding, he added a changeup, and that really helped him. The guy's a stud. I know Will's gonna go in on some good stuff right now.
I think we lost.
Oh no.
You went away for a second.
All right. I was just gonna say, I know Will's gonna give us some more info on this guy, but pure and simple, guy's a stud, and he seems to be getting better. He's young, so it seems like he's on an upward trajectory. So that's good. I mean, and team context matters. The guy's gonna get wins. Mm-hmm. He's gonna get some wins. So
So ADP 10. Let me ask you this real quick. Do you think that he is worth ADP 10 overall?
Oh, I've been kind of tackling this. I think that and again, it might depend on your league. I think that if you're in a smaller league, so if it's like a 10-person league and you're at that turn, then sure, I'll take him at 10, and then you come back real quick and get someone else, a hitter. If you're in a pretty deep league, like a 16-teamer, 15, whatever, depending on your league, I don't know. I feel like, again, it might just depend on where you're at in the draft, like in the
who's been taken already.
Who's been taken? If you're at the end, then it might, if you pass up on him, it might take you a long time. Are you okay with punting pitching a little bit? So I think 10 is. I think I'm torn because, like you said, I have him in a keeper league. So I'm like, you want Strider. I want Strider. But I'm like, I just don't think I would take him at 10. I think I end up favoring hitting a little bit, and I would take a hitter.
The thing is, if you're the first person to take the starting pitcher off the board,
this is true.
It's going to go quick.
Yes.
All of a sudden, they're going to be like, oh, shit, Strider just went. I got to make sure I get Gerrit Cole, or I got to make sure I get Corbin Burnes, because, if guys are going after pitching already, I don't want to be left with like Miles Michaelis as my first starting pitcher.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And then people will be reaching a little bit because they're going to start to freak out, and you don't want to be that guy also. So, keep that in mind as well. Just because it's second round and a couple guys have pitchers doesn't mean you have to go after a pitcher. Just you take that for what it is. But you're 100% right. As soon as Strider goes, once that seal's broken, pitchers are going to go. So if you're in a league and someone takes Strider before 10, Cole's going to go probably at 10 because of exactly what Will said.
Now, the good thing is, I feel like the really, really good starting pitchers that deserve to be like a number one on each team, there's a lot of them. There's a solid at least like 12 or 13, maybe even a little more, if you kind of like look at the analytics of things. Spencer Strider is definitely on the top for me. Yeah. I'm predicting Spencer Strider gets National League Cy Young this season. Yeah. I'm thinking everything is there, man. He just needs to put it all together like he did the season before. Yeah. He has velo. He has stuff. Incredible K percentage. His walks are below league average. He led the league in wins, like you mentioned. He actually led the league in wins by 3. The year that had the most wins after him was only at 17 while he was at 20. He led the league in strikeouts, 99th percentile in whip, 99th percentile in batting average against. I don't understand why his ERA was so high. Like, I know he gave up a few more home runs than he should have, especially in the first half. But still, it's like all these things that he's 99th percentile or even 100th percentile in, and he still had that inflated ERA. I think that just kind of goes to show you like the atmosphere that's in baseball right now with these rule changes and everything that's going along with starting pitching.
I will say this, like you said, I have him in the keeper league, so I did kind of notice. I mean, I didn't write anything down. I kind of want to this time just to kind of keep track. I would say about half the time when he had blow-up starts, some of the times he just did. He's a young guy, and like you said, in this context, guys get to you. But some of the times it wouldn't even be a blow-up start. It would be he had a lead, and he was almost just pumping fastballs just to, he had a four-run lead or something, and he's like, I'm just getting through these guys. No need to work too hard. And then he would give up a couple runs like that, which I think would inflate his ERA, but he would still get a win. If they had a 6-2 lead and then he gave up 1 or 2 more runs, he was still 6-4 or something. So there were times like that where I'm like, is this guy taking his foot off the gas a little bit, not trying to work the corners as much, not trying to do whatever just because he's got a lead and he's just trying to, get more outs faster. But no actual numbers for that other than I would notice that while watching some of the games or keeping up with it. So I don't know. Who knows?
I think it's actually something that you had mentioned before, that he's just like a 2-pitch pitcher.
Yeah,
because once you get through the order around the second time, when these guys have already seen both of your pitches in the first and the second at bat that they've had, they kind of get a general idea of of what's going to come, your pitch sequence and all that. So when you only have 2 pitches, and like you said, he did introduce the changeup, which he did through last year also, but it was just a very small percentage, only 4% of the time. This season was only at 7. So hopefully he can gain a little bit more confidence in his changeup and make that his, his tertiary pitch, as they call it, his third pitch in his arsenal, and throw it close to maybe like 15% of the time. Let's see that double. I feel like that will really help throw the batters off, especially in this environment where you want more balls on the ground, because it just seems like, the fly balls just aren't working. So his fly ball percentage actually went up significantly. So in 2022, his fly ball percentage was at 25.9%. In 2023, it went up to 31.8%.
Yeah.
That's 7%, man. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And because we've seen him do it in 2022, it's fixable. And I'm sure that they know the problem, and I'm sure they're working on fixing it. So at ADP 10, like you said, it really depends on how your draft is. But I think I'm going Spencer Strider number 10. Because of my prediction about his Cy Young, I think he's going to be the league winner, when it comes to starting pitching this season.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Maybe I'll sell him to you.
Yeah, I would love that. I actually have the number 2 in the Brave system, Max Fried, and I'm kind of debating if I want to keep him or not, because I still have Luis Castillo and I don't know, Zac Gallen. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's between those 3, and I know Max Fried. He kind of like we'll get to him later, because he's on this list also. All right, moving on to Gerrit Cole. Now, Gerrit Cole has been the top starting pitcher for a long time now, but it's so crazy because I know that he just won the Cy Young. I didn't realize that this was his first.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy for him to be the best in the league for the past 4 or 5 seasons.
If you would have asked me, I would have said that this would have been his 3rd or 4th. But yeah, when they heard first, I was like, what?
I think it's because he's been in the American League for so long. Ever since he moved on from the Pirates and went to the Astros and then to the Yankees, it's just the American League has some really solid pitching. They've had the DH for so long that they prioritize starting pitching, sometimes over even bats. And because there is that other strong bat in the lineup that they've been facing. But I feel like now that the DH is universal, it's going to be a little more balanced between every league, every team. So Gerrit Cole finally got his Cy Young award. That I do worry about Gerrit Cole a little bit. He is a little bit older. What is he, like 30?
Yeah, he's right at that age where I think that the fall off could happen, and it wouldn't be so shocking.
Yeah, he's going into his age 33 season.
Yeah.
Something was different with Gerrit Cole in 2023. His whiff percentage dropped 8%. His strikeout percentage dropped 6.5% from 32 to down to 27. 76th percentile, that where he's usually like in the 90s. That's actually his lowest since 2017. And so his whiff percentage dropped from 33.9% in 2022 down to 26% in 2023. Chase rate dropped significantly on his fastball, his slider, and his curveball. Spin rate and velo are basically the same from previous seasons, so I don't really know what went wrong. Like we just said, it could just be the state of pitching that we're in right now. And I think it's so weird that the year that he gives up the most hard contact in his whole career is the year that he won his Cy Young.
Yeah.
So his ERA was at a 2.63, but his expected ERA was actually at a 3.48. So it seems like he was actually getting pretty lucky. And I don't know if you actually read this stat or not, but I actually read that Yankee Stadium was actually the best pitcher's ballpark in terms of home runs in 2023, which is very weird, right?
Yeah, that is weird.
Because everyone knows about the short porch in right field, and even left field. Like it's just not that far. I think it's only like 318 feet.
Yeah, the dimensions are definitely smaller, but yeah, I didn't hear that stat. That's pretty crazy. I thought I did read that he had a slight velo dip in on like almost a full mile per hour on his fastball.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's why his hard hit contact. So he gave up way less home runs this year. So it kind of looked like he did something to give up less home runs in order to, obviously, yeah, he gave up less home runs, and I think he took a little bit off of or something in his mechanics that he like lost a little bit on his fastball, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, that obviously got rid of some of his K percentage too because of and the whiff percentage because the velocity, but yeah, I think Gerrit Cole still has so much upside. Like you said, he just won his Cy Young. He's a stud. Again, team context matters. I think if everyone's healthy, that team's going to be good. I think that he has all the intangibles. He could come back and maybe tweak something again and go back in velocity, but give up more home runs, but still be a stud. But like you said, entering that age 33, I could see him fall off as well. And for the price that it is, I think it's hard to say that like his trajectory line is going down when he just won his Cy Young, but it just feels different than Strider. And I think that's why, I don't know. I wouldn't want to take him too high. Personally.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, his fastball did dip a little bit, about 1 mile an hour. Everything else looks pretty much the same. Even like the usage pretty much looks the same. I'm wondering if maybe because he noticed like a little dip in his velocity, if he's trying more to pitch rather than just, gas everyone.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
And getting older, that might be the smart thing to do. We saw that happen with Zach Greinke. We saw that happen with Kershaw. Kershaw used to throw a 94, 95 mile an hour fastball, even touching 96 sometimes. And now he's topping out at like 91.
91, yeah. But he is a stud still when he's healthy.
Still did it, man. Still had an ERA under 2. Still has good amount of strikeouts, but that 12-6 curve is second to none, man. That is the best curveball in baseball. And he introduced that slider a few years ago, too. Unfortunately, Kershaw's not on our list of the top 12. I would like to blame it on because he's not going to be ready for baseball until about June or July.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little bit more than that, unfortunately.
He's on the top 12 injured, but high upside end of the season list.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully we'll be able to see him pitch in the playoffs, but I would actually prefer him to see him come out of the bullpen, not to start a game.
Yeah, or piggyback. I could see him being piggyback. Maybe start in 4 innings or something, and then have someone come in after him and shut it down or keep it going.
But hopefully he can get his ring, and it will actually be a legit ring because there's a big debate about if 2020 is actually legit or not. I don't know your opinion, but honestly, like the Dodgers won. It's in the record books, but so did the 2017 Astros. It's in the record books, and both of those have asterisks next to them because the Astros cheated and the Dodgers won in 60 games. So I don't really consider it like that, monumental win that finally happened, I'm still waiting for that, and they got the team to do it now after spending $1 billion.
Crazy amount.
But all right, that was Gerrit Cole. Now moving on to Corbin Burnes.
Now I remember last year we both were very skeptical about midseason about Corbin Burnes picking it up. He did. He ended up doing his thing in the second half. I think he's pretty good, and I'll let Will get into the numbers, but I will say real quick, him going to Baltimore, man. Whew.
Such a good trade. Such a good trade. I don't know who owns Corbin Burnes in our keeper league, but dude, that's.
But if they don't keep him, then they're making a mistake. I don't care what the price is. I feel like you have to.
He's going to go for $50 at least in our salary budget.
Yeah.
All right. So Corbin Burnes, that trade is just incredible for his fantasy value. He is going from one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks in Milwaukee to one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in Camden Yards in Baltimore. And Baltimore is only like maybe a 4-hour drive from me.
Oh, nice.
I think I'm going to check out Corbin Burnes this season. You know,
Oh, that'd be cool.
I gotta check and see if the Dodgers are going to be there. I'd rather go, when the Dodgers are playing against the Orioles in the interleague game. But who cares? Like, I still just want to watch him pitch.
For sure.
The prices are definitely going to go up, though. Prices everywhere kind of went up. I saw opening day for Dodgers tickets were starting at $250.
It's insane, dude.
Ridiculous.
Stupid.
All right. So Corbin Burnes, strikeouts were down 5% from 2022 and down 10% from 2021. So it did look like he was on a little bit of a decline.
Yeah.
Like you said, we were talking about a midseason last year. Walks were up 2% from 2022 and 3% from 2021. His first half numbers look very, I don't want to say terrible, but it's like a guy that I would want as maybe like my bench guy or like my fifth starter. 3.94 ERA with a 23.1% K rate. But in the second half, Corbin Burnes turned it on. 2.71 ERA with a 28.5% K rate. Something happened.
Something clicked for sure.
Something clicked for sure. Batting average against actually looked really good, but it just seems like Burnes is the type of pitcher that he needs strikeouts to be elite.
Yeah.
And when the strikeouts increased towards the end of the season, that's when we saw his ERA drop also. Some guys don't need a lot of strikeouts to be considered elite. Guys like Dallas Keuchel back in the day, extreme ground ball pitcher, that relies on the infield. But Corbin Burnes, I don't think that he's that type of pitcher. I think that he needs to kind of be like the flamethrower, the guy that just that just strikes, 10 to 12 guys out every single game he's out there.
Even with the poor first half numbers, he ended with like 200 strikeouts. So, I mean, you could, if you wanted to project him to have more than that, I would totally back you, because even if he has just a slight uptick in his first half numbers, his numbers are going to be more than that. He had 10 wins last year, which obviously is, whatever. But again, that's in Milwaukee with that team. He's going to go to Baltimore. 15 at least. I don't know, but it's going to be better. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're hoping that he's not going to start off slow, and even if he does, he's not going to start off slow for quite as long. But everything else, like again, if he can keep it going, and honestly, people were talking about how he was unhappy in Milwaukee, that, and I think that could have been something about it too. And then he's going the second half like, all right, well, I got to do my thing still if I want to go somewhere else or whatever. I'm here. They didn't trade me. And so now that he is traded, he's on a team that's going to get more wins. I mean, he might just be more motivated to just from the jump, just being a stud. This is a guy, he's probably going to go in round 2, that I would love to get a top end hitter in round 1 and then come around and get Burnes in round 2.
Once you see Gerrit Cole come off the board, you got to be the next one to snatch
your eyes
that.
Got to get wide and go,
exactly.
Where's Burnes? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why it's very important to keep your eye on the draft and see who everyone else is taking.
Absolutely.
Also, don't walk away just because it's not your turn anymore. You need to be. You got to pay attention. This isn't fantasy.
Don't take
football.
too many drinks.
Dude, honestly, like I'm a big believer that in fantasy football, you could auto draft and you could have the best team out there. You can't do that in baseball, man. You can't do that in fantasy baseball. You have to pay attention. It's a really long season. You're not sticking with these guys for 17 games, or 16, depending on how
you don't want to waste a high pick. Yeah, you don't want to waste a high pick on a guy that you're gonna end up wanting to just drop or try to trade away and no one wants him or something, and then you can't drop because of you spent too high of a draft pick. You gotta pay attention. It's gotta matter. Every pick matters. We're not gonna get into obviously like the draft strategies, like actually how to draft. But yes, if you're in the corners, guys, and someone after you, took a pitcher, then they might not take another pitcher. So keep that little things like that. Keep that in mind with your draft. That's why you don't walk away, because things like that.
Now, usually with these rankings that I've been doing for the past few weeks, I like to put each player in certain tiers, but I feel like starting pitching, there's just way too many starting pitchers to create like that many tiers. So, but if I were to create a tier for starting pitching, I feel like I would have Strider and Gerrit Cole in their tier together, and Corbin Burnes kind of starting off the second tier.
Yeah, I think I would almost. I think the second tier would still be pretty small for me, and then it would
Mhm.
drop off again. But yes, I think Burnes might be in tier 2.
Yeah, if I were to do a tier 2, I'd probably do Corbin Burnes, Zack Wheeler, Kevin Gausman, and I'd be like kind of like iffy about Luis Castillo and Zac Gallen.
I would almost do just Wheeler, Burnes and Wheeler, and then almost call the next tier like 2B or something. Like it's so close, but like I
Right.
still, or just call it 3, and then the drop off after 3 would be, I think, way bigger. Is what I would say. But if you want to put the next whatever we said 5 guys and then in one tier or break them up, I'm okay with that too. But yes, I think Wheeler, Gausman, Castillo, Gallen are probably right there.
I think the thing with Castillo, we'll go over it a lot more later, but I think it's just the team context,
Yeah,
whereas now that Corbin Burnes is on a winning team, they won over 100 games last season, and Zack Wheeler, he's on the Phillies, who's probably going to come close
team,
to
yeah,
100 wins, between 90 and 100 wins, probably.
right.
Kevin Gausman, Toronto, it's just that they are in a very tough division, but I feel like they have the tools to get
Yeah,
the 100
I feel
wins.
like they under performed last year, so I could see
Yeah.
them coming back up. Yeah.
Yeah, we just need Vlad and Bichette to really just turn it on,
Oh
and
yeah.
Vlad needs to be worth that money that they're paying him, man. That was a huge arbitration contract,
Sure.
and he needs to show that he deserves it, you
Yeah,
know? Playing in Toronto is not the easiest, though.
it's
It
true.
it is cold in Canada.
It's true.
All right, moving on to number 4 would be Zack Wheeler. Now, ADP has Shohei Ohtani actually as a number 2 starting pitcher coming off the board, but
It's crazy.
that
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense, which is why we skipped him, just in
Yeah.
case there's some people out there that did see that in ADP. But
Right.
he's not going to pitch at all this season, and I'm definitely not having him as number 2 next
No.
season because he's going to be on a pitch limit.
Yeah.
We'll get lucky to see 120 innings from Shohei Ohtani next season, but the season after that,
Game
2020
on.
comes around,
Yeah.
game on.
Yeah. 100%.
All right, moving on to Zack Wheeler.
Yeah. Zack Wheeler.
ERA was a little high.
Yeah.
But almost all his metrics were identical from 2022 when his ERA was 2.82. So I think it's possible that he had just gotten a little bit unlucky.
Unlucky. Yeah.
Maybe it was the shift ban, maybe the other rule changes. It could have been a lot of different things. But his expected ERA this season at the end was a 3.18, a lot closer to his regular ERA or his actual ERA from 2022. So I think his inflated ERA of 3.61, I think that's a little bit misleading. I think this season we're actually going to see a little bit better performance from Zack Wheeler.
I think so too, and I also, I think that he is the kind of guy, like you were saying, with all the rule changes. There, obviously some people got hurt by it and whatnot. The top end guys adjusted to it, and I feel like he seems like a guy that maybe didn't fully adjust to it, and already is still one of the top end guys. So I could see him, making those extra little tweaks that he needs to and being even better. He's the kind of, put it to you this way, I really like Zack Wheeler. I think that he's a pitcher that I also, and maybe that's why I was a little hesitant on Strider, is because these next couple guys, even with Burnes, like I was saying, in round 2 and Wheeler at the end of round 2, maybe round 3, like I would be okay with them as my first starting pitcher. I don't think Wheeler's gonna win Cy Young, but you can still make up with the rest with the rest of your draft to win your fantasy league. But I do like Wheeler. I like that he scrapped his changeup last year and added the sweeper, and then that ended up being his highest whiff. Pitch on his highest whiff percentage, with the highest whiff percentage. And I feel like that's like that's the first year he did that. I feel like he's gonna just kind of lean into that even more, and I could see his strikeouts going up from 212, which was solid, and then just perfecting his craft a little bit, and like you said, I think the xERA, he comes back to that a little bit. And Zack Wheeler, we're talking about being, he's already 4. So what more? How much higher can you get? But that's what you want, when you want. I feel like he almost seems a little bit safe. Like if whereas with Cole, you're like, is he gonna fall off? With Burnes, hopefully he doesn't, start off slow again. I feel like with Wheeler, you know what you're gonna get. You can plug him in, and you're like, I got a guy who's gonna get me ace quality numbers throughout the year, we're good to go. And that's why I think I like him. So
I completely agree with everything you just said. I actually have everything that you just said in my notes as well.
nice.
One thing that I do want to add, though, is he used his cutter a lot less in 2023.
Yeah.
I'm assuming because opponents had a 270 batting average against, while it was only at a 204 in 2022. But just to kind of like go over what you said, Wheeler is 33 years old, and now he decides it's a good time to introduce a sweeper. Something that he's never thrown before, which, like you said, it was his most dominant pitch in 2023, a batting average against of 204, a 39.2% whiff rate. Like that's incredible on a guy that introduces a new pitch.
Right.
33 years old, learning new pitches. That was just wild to me, man.
I feel like that's just intelligent baseball. Like,
that's real pitching. It's not like these guys that just come out here and try to throw 106 miles an hour, or we'll just chap in. And this is a guy that
not
has
just relying on their talent, but relying on their smarts and finding the way around the loopholes. Like we talked about before with like the Kershaws and stuff. Like you use what you got to get better, and I feel like he did that. Like you said, 33, introducing a new pitch and having it be so dominant is it's awesome.
Yeah, a starting pitcher that has 5 solid pitches in his arsenal. Like that's amazing. I kind of wish I think that in the future, if Spencer Strider really wants to stay number 1 consistently, he's going to need to develop another pitch, more than just that fastball and the slider.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next on our list we have Kevin Gausman coming in at number 5, ADP 28. Elite strikeout rate, highest of his career at 31.1%. Amazing, except for the 2020 shortened season. His K rate was a little bit above that, but like I just said, like I don't really count 2020 stats. It's a little misleading because there's, like we just saw with Corbin Burnes, first half of the season, second half of the season, Cy Young caliber, so the 2020 season, sorry Carlos, I know that you're like big about no, it totally counts, but I'm sorry, man, I don't see it. I don't see it that way, unfortunately, but to each their own, right?
That's right.
So Kevin Gausman, the dude is a freaking machine, man. At least 31 starts in his last 3 seasons, getting close to 200 innings every single season. He does give up a lot of solid hits, which is why I think his ERA isn't really like going under 2 anymore, because there was a time where his ERA was pretty low every single season. But he doesn't play in the best pitcher's ballpark anymore, so all that hard contact tends to bite him in the ass sometimes.
Yeah, it's got a 1.18 whip, but I mean his strikeouts 237. I was like, at first I was like, did I write that down? Right? That's
237 in only 185 innings.
Yeah, crazy. I think 11.5 K per 9 or something like that. That number compared to everyone else's, I mean, other than like again the top end guys are
Strider
from Strider basically, but everyone else, I mean, it's just like the guy, like you said, the guy's a machine. I think that was a perfect way to say it. He's legit. And again, like we're saying, I think the park itself isn't the best, but I think we're all kind of expecting the Blue Jays to step it up a little bit, and I mean, or at least hoping. And I think that'll help him a little bit too. So, I like Gausman. I do feel like he's a little less, I don't know, safe, I guess. I mean, he's if we're gonna compare to categories league, I mean, he's gonna help out your strikeouts. We know that, So, ERA might hurt, but you gotta balance it out. So.
That's the thing with Gausman. It's like it's give and take, right? You're gonna get all those strikeouts. And honestly, for me, I think it's enough for me to grab him at ADP 28. If I don't have a starting pitcher yet, I think I'm totally going after Kevin Gausman, because I don't want to be, left
without one of the aces.
with a number 2 as my number 1. I feel like every winning team in fantasy has to have that one legit ace. And now we're already on number 5, and there's only a few more that I would feel comfortable with as my number 1. 2 more actually. The other ones I feel like they're all like kind of like number 2s. But yeah, he finished 29th overall in points leagues and 33rd overall in categories leagues. That's in points, that's 8th in starting pitching and 4th in starting pitching in categories. So all those strikeouts, they definitely help, man. And I think the strikeouts kind of like outweigh the bad stuff. He did give up a lot of walks too. The 55 walks in 185 innings. I'm looking for guys to have less than 50 walks, and less than 50 from 55 is not really that much of a difference, but
it's right there on the cusp.
Yeah, but less than 50 is usually like my go-to, especially for my first starting pitcher that I draft. All right, that was Kevin Gausman. Moving on to our next player, Luis Castillo. I love Luis Castillo, man. I've loved him ever since he was on the Reds. I'm
a little salty that you have him and you're gonna keep him.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's a stud. I think that we all a couple years ago everyone would think of him as the ground ball pitcher, the sinker ball pitcher, and he switched it up, and I think that again, like you kind of referenced in a different spot, little give and take with that. He obviously is giving up less ground ball percentage, but he's got way more strikeouts, and that is pretty. I mean, again, it's important. I think the ground ball for fantasy, you want the strikeouts, and he's probably given up a little bit more ERA. I didn't like cross reference that on what it was back when he was the sinker ball ground ball pitcher, but I mean the strikeouts that definitely helps out with him coming up all the way up to where we have him around 5 or 6, whatever it is. His ERA this last season was 3.34. Yeah, 3.34, but 197 innings. So the guy's durable. 219 Ks, 14 wins. I mean, and I could see the Mariners being better than they were last year too. I don't know. I think
Javi and I were actually just talking about this, that the Mariners, I feel like they have a lot of good pieces. They're just missing like that veteran presence. They've had that in the past before, but it's like with starting pitching, I think they're okay because they do have Luis Castillo. He's probably going to be there to be able to, kind of give guidance to the young guys like George Kirby. But batting wise, like hitting wise, I don't really see anyone in the clubhouse as like that, like legit leader.
They needed Turner.
Yes, that's exactly what I said, man.
Yeah, they
or now go after Matt Chapman. He's another veteran right there that would be solid to have
they
someone
to Suarez. I think that might be why they're kind of
but Suarez isn't even there anymore. He's in Arizona now.
Oh, well then, dude. What are they doing?
I don't know.
Right now.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, go after Matt Chapman. His defense is crazy good, and he's a big power hitter, and I'm sure just like his baseball knowledge would be impeccable just to be in that clubhouse. For the guys like Julio Rodriguez that could definitely use like some veteran guidance.
Sure. No, I totally agree with you. I think that a veteran guy like that. I mean, JT, I feel like would have been so perfect.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Just to be in the clubhouse. And they're actually talking about Justin Turner possibly becoming a manager in the next few years after he retires. And they asked him about it, and he was like, all I know is I want to be in baseball for a long time.
Yeah, he's going to be a manager, dude.
I think so.
For sure.
Once Dave Roberts is done, maybe.
I would love that.
I would love that too. I don't know if you know this, but he's actually my favorite baseball player of all time.
Really? That's awesome.
Dude, the playoffs, watching Justin Turner every year, like it was incredible, man. I got some signed stuff. I got awesome. a big bobblehead, like not the one that you get from like the stadium, but like this one was pretty legit. Like on I forgot what the website is called, but yeah, man, I got lots of cool stuff.
I love JT too. Yeah.
All right, so Luis Castillo.
Yeah.
Like you said, he changed his pitch mix, since moving to Seattle. It does make a lot of sense. He was pretty change-up and sinker heavy in Cincinnati, seeing as how Great American Ballpark is the most home run friendly ballpark in baseball, But after moving to Seattle, Castillo didn't really have to use his changeup too much. It dropped from 30% in 2021 down to 15.6% in 2023, and his sinker usage dropped also 23.6% in 2021, down to 17.9% in 2023. What increased is his 97-mile-an-hour fastball, going up from 28.5% to 44.4%. That is his most dominant pitch now, and I'm sorry, it's his primary pitch, and it's his most dominant pitch now. He has one of the best fastballs in the game, and the reason why he didn't use that too much in Cincinnati is because if someone gets some solid contact in it, it's gone, and that would have been a lot of home runs. But the pitch mix, what this did was increase his whiff percentage and chase percentage, decreased his ground ball percentage. So you're not going to see, those the type of pitcher that he used to be, where it was a lot of double plays, a lot of guys getting on base. But I'm loving all these strikeouts that we're seeing. 219 strikeouts in 197 innings. It's pretty good. It's not, anywhere near like Strider or whatever, but at this ADP at number 30, I think that's pretty solid, man. I think that he's, going into his age 31 season, still in his prime. I think that we can get something similar to what we saw last year, maybe even a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. And I think he seems like one of the safer guys that we're, if we're going to categorize these guys as more risky or more safe, whatever, I feel like he's the guy that you can rely on. And those are the kind of guys I end up liking to get, especially if you're in a like deeper league, anything over like 12 or over. I kind of like to go a little bit. If you're in a 10-person league, you can get a little bit more risky. There's a little bit more room for error. But if you're 14 or something, these are the kind of guys that I think you want to go after because
very safe.
Very safe. Yeah.
All right, number 7 on our list, Zac Gallen, ADP 32. Dude, Zac Gallen is so good, man. He gave up a lot of hard contact in 2023, but he led his team to the World Series. He's one of the reasons why they went to the World Series. I don't know if you noticed this. You definitely did your research on some other pitchers, but the pitches that seemed to give him the most problems were also the pitches that were the most effective for him. So I think it was just kind of like command problems that could have been the issue for him. So that was the cutter and the curveball. The cutter had a 595 slug against. Curveball had a 344 slug against. And in terms of whiff percentage, the cutter was at 20.3%. That's up from 15.7 back in 2022. And the curveball whiff percentage was 40.6. That's up from 33.7 in 2022.
Right.
One of the things I noticed also about his curveball in 2022, it had 16.3 inches of total movement. Now moving into 2023, it was only at 13.8 inches of total movement. So he lost about 2.5 inches of movement on his curveball, which that could be the reason, why it was getting hit so hard, but it could also be the reason why there were so many whiffs on the curveball also. It didn't really seem to hurt his bat missing ability, but the hard contact, some guys are just better at hitting curveballs than others.
Right. So some of the stuff that I ended up looking at, it's hard for me to say that I don't want to sound like a hater. I am not as big on Gallen, and it's hard for me to be a hater, if you will, because of exactly what you said. Look what he just did. He was the freaking linchpin to get his team to the World Series. Like, he was probably, especially on the pitching side, of course, but I feel like he was the veteran presence to help him get there. So I don't want to take anything away from Gallen. I did see, and I was got this from Arizona people, so they're you can be a little bit more critical about your own players, also biased, but so his fastball velo is at about 93.6, so it's it's not very fast, and he throws this fastball a lot, so his fastball is very hittable. He's got he's the 40.6% whiff rate on the curve, like you were saying. So basically, and a 31 on his changeup. So those are his off-speed pitches are I feel like are his money pitches, and I think his fastball obviously is a bit of a setup pitch, is where I think he can get himself into some trouble. He had a 5 mile per hour increase on his exit velocity on his fastball. I can't remember the exact percentage of what it was, but it was 5 miles, more. I think it was like 87 last year to like in the 90s, and so like that
that's a
makes a
lot.
big difference. Yeah, and so because it's slower, 93. If I feel like if it's a little bit faster, then it might be a little bit different to do that. But I think his fastball is what gets him into a little bit of trouble. And I think that's why he's hittable. But again, I think he seems like he's a good pitcher, and if he can make those adjustments, and maybe not necessarily on the velocity, but maybe relying more on the off-speed pitches, to almost set up a fastball, if you will, to kind of almost like reverse do it to kind of get the, because I think a lot of the batters are probably just sitting on fastball with some of those numbers, and that's where he's getting hit hard. But that's just some of the stuff that I saw. But with that being said, I do still like Gallen. I just don't. I don't know if I am as sold on him. Again, if we're categorizing him safe and risky, if you will, I feel like he's a little bit more risky because I could see, him kind of regressing a little bit back to what he could be. But again, I don't want to sound like I don't like Gallen. I will draft him. I'm not avoiding him. I might just not have him as high.
So one thing I did notice also is that his walk percentage has gone down a lot. He's under 6%, and that means that he's throwing a lot more of his pitches inside the zone, which is getting a lot more contact. So that could be one of the issues as well. Maybe like the curveball, that used to, because it doesn't have that drop that it used to, maybe instead of being 3 inches under the zone, maybe it's actually right there in the zone, and some guys are just teeing off on it, or it could be a whole number of things. But I did see an interview with Zac Gallen on MLB Network a few days ago, and he did say that he's working on his pitch mix, and I think he's going to come back stronger next season.
Yeah, I mean, totally see it.
They all say that, they all say they've been working on different pitches or whatever. But I don't know. I believe in Zac Gallen. I believe that he actually, I don't think that he's good enough to maybe crack like the top 5. But I think he's good where he's at number 7.
Yeah, I could totally. I think, I don't see him. I guess that's where I'm going. I don't necessarily see him making too big of jumps up, but I could see him, even if he stays stagnant, maybe other people making jumps above him type of thing. So then he would still just drop. That's where I'm at with Gallen. Like I said,
that is possible. There's a lot of other guys that have higher upside.
That's where I'm going with it. Yeah, exactly.
But I still do think he's one of those safe guys that you were like kind of talking about.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to number 8, we got Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez just had his breakout season, man. He just had the best season of his career. Career highs in K percentage, career highs in whiff percentage, chase percentage, innings pitched, wins, career low walks, career low barrel percentage. He's throwing his fastball harder than ever.
Everything.
Dude, he looks like he's in a good spot to have an even bigger breakout in 2024, his second year in Minnesota.
So here's the perfect guy that I would say that, like we were saying, if Pablo Lopez does it again and even takes another step forward, we could be talking about him in the top 4, top 5, top 3, maybe. I don't know. The guy is a stud. If he didn't have the injury history before last season, like would he be right here at 8? I don't know. I mean, maybe still, because the other guys have really good numbers too, but like, I don't know. I think that, Pablo Lopez, everything, you look at all of his numbers, everything you just said. I mean, I don't need to repeat everything, but like he looks great. And if he didn't have the injury stuff from before, I feel like I would be way more willing to take him higher. And I think Minnesota is going to be, I mean, they're in a bad division, so like let's start there. So
right.
You're already counting a couple extra wins just because of that. But I do think that they have the ability to turn it on and be pretty good. So
yeah, I agree. So that was a lot of good stuff we said about Pablo Lopez, but I got to say something negative about everyone. Yeah. So this guy struggled a little bit early on. He had a 3.89 ERA in the first half versus a 3.36 ERA in the second half. That's really the only thing that I got to say about him. And I do have kind of like a reason in my head why I'm thinking this actually happened. he's been in Miami his whole career, man,
Mm-hmm.
where the weather is warm all year round.
Yeah.
Now he goes to Minnesota and he's playing
Cold at the
baseball
beginning of the
when
season.
it's 40 degrees outside, 45 degrees, 50 degrees. You see guys wearing like the gaiters and
Yeah.
covering their faces. It's freaking cold, and I
That's a
don't
great
think that
point.
he was ready for that.
Yeah.
And I think that really messed him up. But I think now that he knows, what happened last season, he's going to be going into 2024 a lot more prepared. So I
Yeah.
think we're going to see something closer to like maybe like a 3.5 ERA in the first half.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. They always talk about when the season starts and when it ends, where it gets cold, it gets really cold.
Mhm.
And Minnesota is definitely one of those. So
Yeah.
I can totally see that affecting him. That totally makes sense for sure.
Baseball's a summer sport,
Yeah.
and a lot of guys, they thrive in the heat, not 120 degree heat, but 80s, 90s is usually like where a lot of baseball players kind of like, really get into their rhythm. We talked about a little bit on the catcher preview about Sean Murphy, going from Oakland, that's warm year round, and then going over to Atlanta in the first half. He actually did really good because in Atlanta the first half of the season, it's not too bad. It's 60s,
Right.
70s. It's kind of close to like what he was playing in Oakland. But then when the summer hits, it's the opposite for him, where the humidity, man, it just got to him, and he wasn't prepared for that. He wasn't hydrating, and now going into 2024, now that these guys know kind of like what to expect, I think we're going to see better seasons from both of those guys.
Totally can see that.
All right, now the guy that we don't know basically anything about, because StatCast isn't a thing in the KBO or in the Japanese league or any of that, is Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And coming in at number 9, his ADP is currently 39. There's a lot of good things that we could say about Yamamoto, but we don't know what he's going to look like in Major League Baseball. It was the same with Ohtani. It was the same with Kenta Maeda. You can go back and you can look at Hideo Nomo. There's a lot of players that were amazing in the Japanese league, in the KBO, and they come over and either they're still amazing or it just didn't work out for them.
Right. You could totally see it going either way. Everything that they say about this guy shows that it shouldn't go in a negative way. I mean, they're saying that he was, awesome. Didn't he? I think he won essentially like the MVP and the Cy Young.
3 years in a row.
Yeah, whatever those awards were. So, I mean, he's got all the accolades for it, for over there. He seems to be everything that you're asking for. But again, it's a different ball. It's a different, it's a different beast. A lot of the times they pitch in a different day's rest.
Right.
There's a lot of factors to go into it. Just for that reason alone, there's obviously a risk with him. So that's what kind of makes it hard with drafting him, like in that range, in the sense, because you just don't know what if he does turn into a bust, then you're just kicking yourself in, for not taking someone else who's maybe a little bit safer. But if he turns into the stud that everyone says that he might be, then you're going to be like, wow, that was a huge pick. So, I mean, the only thing I can say, like, numbers wise, are just expected numbers. They expect 184-ish innings, a 9.78 K per 9, 12-ish. They say 12 wins. I think more with being on the Dodgers.
Yeah,
but
I'd say 15 probably.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. A 2.5 walk per 9. So, like, I think that if he hits anything close to his expected numbers, then you'll be happy. But again, there's the risk, like we obviously like already pointed out. With that big change, that big move. So, the more leagues I'm in, 100% I'm going to get him. If I'm in a couple, I don't know. I might pass. That's what makes it fun with the auction league, guys.
I wonder how much he's going to go for. That's what I was just thinking. Like, I wonder how much he's going to go for in our league.
Salary cap league, go get your guys. But, if you're in a salary cap league with a bunch of Dodger fans, he's probably going to go for more than you want to spend.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming. I can't, I don't know. I don't have a number in my head for how much I want to spend on him, but I probably won't end up buying him.
I think I'm going to cap it at like maybe 20. I think that's the highest that I would want to spend on a guy that doesn't have any MLB experience. And, just like I said earlier, like there's no StatCast data for Yamamoto yet. But honestly, if the best front office in baseball is trusting Yamamoto to be their ace, I feel like I got to trust him too. And I was looking at the prospect report on Fangraphs. They gave Yamamoto a 60 grade fastball, a 55 grade slider, a 60 grade curveball, a 70 grade splitter, a 50 grade cutter, and an 80 grade command. So all those numbers are elite, man.
Yep.
Yeah, those are legit. We don't know how he's going to fare against MLB players, but at this ADP, I think I'm willing to take the chance. 39. That's like in the middle of the third round.
He also passed the eye test in the WBC, which I feel like, but I think that's kind of big too. I will say maybe because I'm a Dodger fan that I'm almost like I don't want to get my hopes too high. I feel like if he was maybe going somewhere else, I'd be like, I think we're good to get him. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want to be like, yes, Yamamoto, we're good. And then he turns into a bust and be like, okay, gotta hide my face because he spent a lot of money on him. But
he could either be a bust or he could be a top 5 starting pitcher going into next season.
Right. So,
and I don't know. It's depending on you. Like, if you think that that the risk is worth the reward, go for him, man.
Right.
All right, moving on to number 10, we have George Kirby at ADP 41, just 2 spots behind Yamamoto. Doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, less than one per inning, but he does limit the amount of walks. He only had 19 walks in 190 innings pitched. That's 100 percentile. That is the best walk percentage in all of baseball for starting pitching, man.
Yeah. So Kirby is he's interesting. He absolutely hates to walk people. So with that being said, I think he's going to continue that trend, which kind of sucks because I think the rest of his actual stuff, if he were to be able to be, because if you look at his stuff, he's basically just pumping stuff in the zone. So that's why, he's not getting those strikeouts. If he were to decide to kind of work a little bit outside the zone and get these guys to chase a little bit, I think his strikeouts would go up a lot more. Obviously, his walks would go up a lot more too. But I think exactly what Will said, it's 100 percentile. This guy's got too much pride. He doesn't want to walk anyone. He doesn't want to lose that, like, wow, this guy doesn't walk anyone thing. So I think that's where it's kind of like, it's holding me back a little bit from him. But if he came in and was like, I think I'm going to be okay with, walking more people and I'm going to, work the outside a little bit more or whatever, even with him just like verbally saying that, I feel like I would be a little bit more excited about him. But if he does something like that, this is the kind of guy that I think has high upside because his actual stuff is pretty legit. He's just not, willing to give up too many balls and walk these guys. And again, he's, he plays on the same team as Castillo. So, those wins are going to come. I don't know if I wrote it down. I think he had a good amount of wins. I might have not wrote that down, but
13 and 10.
Yeah. I mean, 13 wins, not bad, so, but it's that 172 strikeouts, 8.12 K per 9, which is, I think, the lowest of all the guys we've talked about so far, by far. So, but a 0.9 walk per 9, which is, like you said, it's insane. So,
in points leagues, like in our league, the starting pitching walks is only a negative half a point, I think.
Right.
Something like that. So
it's not that.
He's not really going to be like the top of the guy that is going to be on the top of our drafts.
Right.
He's a guy that's gonna go later on because the strikeouts aren't there. 13 wins is pretty good, so he's still going to be like middle of the bunch.
Yeah,
but
it's still very valuable. But like you said, he's the strike. I don't know. I think I keep going back and forth on Kirby. I like him.
Yeah,
I think
he's really good, but like you said earlier, it really depends on the settings of your league.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, moving on to number 10, we have the new Dodger, Tyler wrong one. Tyler Glasnow. So Tyler Glasnow has been elite for a very long time, but Tommy John surgery in 2021. So that hurt him quite a bit. You know, he's been a little banged up, kind of like every single season. But
Yeah.
The Tommy John surgery is the thing that is kind of the most scary. But after seeing what he did in 2023, he just had the most starts of his career. Um, Only 120 innings last season, but 21 starts, you know, and
Yeah.
I feel like next season he could easily hit 150 innings as long as his arm holds up.
Right.
You know, which it does seem so he didn't have the traditional Tommy John surgery where, you know, they cut and then reattach. They
Yeah.
actually put like a mesh around his ligament that made it get stronger. So it's a little less invasive. You know, it's not the downtime is a little bit better, a
Right.
little bit shorter. So we're hoping, you know, that Tyler Glasnow that this surgery will actually like hold up just
Yeah.
as good as like a normal Tommy John surgery, or maybe even better, because they do say that this type of surgery hasn't been around for this long, where they just use the mesh instead of like replacing the ligament.
Yeah.
Usually they'll like take it from like, you know, the back of the thigh or something like that, and then replace that in the elbow. But with this type of surgery, they don't need to do that. I'm hoping, because there's not really a lot of data on too many guys that have had this type of surgery. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping it actually works for him, man. But it looks like the Dodgers are actually thinking about doing a 6-man rotation rather than the
Yeah.
traditional 5. And they have the staff to do it. They are super deep now. Like the
Right.
depth of
I
starting
know
pitching
Dave.
is
I know
incredible.
Dave Roberts said no to that, but I think Dave Roberts is a in the moment answer the question, not a long term answer the question kind of guy. So you know they still have some guys coming, you know, with injury and stuff. But once the staff gets like a little bit more healthy, I think he's gonna have no choice but to do a 6-man, because he's just gonna have too many guys that are
Yeah.
not gonna be pitching. You know, so I think right now he's saying no, but I think that's going to change when he gets a little bit some of those arms a little bit healthier. But I totally agree with you. His I think his strikeout percentage, yeah, top 3 in the league. I mean, they compare it to like what Strider can do type of thing.
Mhm.
He has that upside. It's his injury, you know, it's his injury history. Um, you know, the irony that his name is Glass now, you know, is funny. But I mean, this guy has the stuff. I mean, he's got like a 96 mile per hour fastball with huge spin, like mid-20s whiff rate on a fastball is like that's pretty good for fastball. For for those that don't know, that's pretty legit. I think Glasnow, if he can stay healthy, is going to be. I mean, you can't say steal in the draft, because I don't think ADP wise he's going low enough to say like steal of the draft. But he could. I mean, he probably won't pitch more than 160 still, just because of innings limits and potential 6-man rotation, which is obviously going to take some out of it. But if he pitches 150, I mean, you're going to be happy with what he
Oh, yeah.
is giving you. He's
For sure.
top 5, I think, for sure. Upside.
Yeah, and Dodger Stadium is kind of like a neutral ballpark. It's not
Yeah.
favorable to pitchers or hitters. So I think we're going to see like the real Tyler Glasnow, you know, coming
Yeah,
out
true.
in 2024.
True.
And just like you said, like there's so many pitchers that the Dodgers have that they're not going to have to rely on him like
Yeah,
the Rays
that's gonna
tried
be
to do.
huge.
You know,
That's huge.
there's other guys, Yamamoto and Bueller, Kershaw's coming back, and the young guys,
Miller.
Bryce Bobby Miller, Sheehan. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of guys out there that can kind of like have his back, you know,
Yep.
and hopefully the Dodgers are smart with him and with
Yeah.
all their players, because the Dodgers have a big injury history with all their starting pitching, unfortunately. All right, moving on to number 12, Aaron Nola. So this is actually reversed for me. This is ADP. I actually have the next guy ahead of Aaron Nola.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to skip Aaron Nola and I'm going to go to the next guy. I have Max Fried actually as my number 12.
Okay.
So ADP wise, they are separated by 3 spots. So
Yeah.
I mean, either way, you either one of these guys, I feel like, you know, ADP 44 is basically the same thing as ADP 47. You know,
Yeah.
once someone takes Max Fried, take Aaron Nola. Once that someone takes Aaron Nola, take Max Fried. You know, whoever goes first. But I actually prefer Max Fried a lot to Aaron
Okay.
Nola. I feel like Aaron Nola just gives up way too many home runs, way too much hard hit.
Yeah.
Max Fried had some bad luck in May last year. When I hear forearm injury when it comes to starting pitching, I always assume the worst.
Yeah.
Especially when that pitcher is shut down from all baseball activities for an extended period of time. And that's exactly what happened to Max Fried last year. But before the injury, Fried made 5 starts and had a 2.08 ERA in 26 innings.
Right.
Returned in August and posted a 2.78 ERA in 51.2 innings. So we know that this guy, that Max Fried, is legit, that he can limit the amount of runs, and he's going to get a lot of run support playing for one of the best teams in baseball, the top 2, either the best team or the second best team, because that's still to be determined for the National League. But I think Max Fried's legit, man, and I think that he's about a strikeout per inning. I'd like to see the strikeouts up just a little bit, but where he's at right now, we could definitely see him top 10 next season.
Yeah, no, I could see that too. I mean, I think that, like you said, because of the injury, the forearm could, don't even want to say it, but obviously it like can be a precursor to other things. But he had 8 wins after starting only 14 games, and like that's
only 1 loss.
And only 1 loss, and like that's huge too, because like I think it was Kirby. We're talking about 13 wins but 10 losses. This ratio is very different. So I think he might be just a little bit more risky, just again because of the injury. But I mean, that he also has really high upside, like you said. He could be top 10 easily. He's on one of the better teams, or if not the best team. I like Fried too. I think that he's there's something about him too that I'm just rooting for, and I'm not rooting for the Braves hardly ever, but there's something about him that I'm like, I think that he just has that it factor that I think if it clicks, he's gonna be legit. And there's something about all the numbers that we say, the analytics, but there's also I heard like someone, Colin Cowherd, say manalytics. He kind of has the manalytics. He can do it. So I think that's important too. I do like Fried. I know you're kind of up in the air on who you're going to potentially keep, if you might keep him, or I don't know if you already made your decision.
Well, we're keeping 5, so he's not
so
one of my 4 locked players. But
if he makes it,
if the other 2 expansion teams, if they don't end up taking Fried, I'm down to either Fried or Nolan Jones.
Yeah, I get that for sure. I think that that's tough, man. I don't know.
It is tough. Unfortunately. All right, so that was Max Fried. Now we're moving on to the guy that's going 3 spots ahead of him. That is Aaron Nola. So Aaron Nola at ADP 44, 4.46 ERA, 12 and 9 in 32 starts. The strikeouts were down, the walks were up, his whip is up. Honestly, dude, I'm hating on Aaron Nola. I don't like him. I don't understand why the Phillies went out and extended him, or gave him that new contract after the season. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that I think he had 8.39 K per 9, 45 walks, so he's still in that range that we were saying that we're okay with. 193 innings, so he was pretty durable. But again, the ERA, he gives up a lot of runs. Team context, he's obviously ballpark, but the team itself is good. So, I think in a categories league, you want to stay away from him. The ERA is going to make you lose ERA with some of his blow-up starts. In a points league, I don't want him definitely as not my number one. And I probably won't end up with a lot of Aaron Nola, because I'm either going to go get someone right before him that I like a lot more, or I'm just going to, as my number one, or I'm going to wait and get someone after him as my number 2. If you got him in a points league, I would not, I'm not going to, I don't blame you, but I'm with you. I think that, he's clearly a number 2 pitcher, definitely not a number 1. Like some of these other guys could be number 1s that we were talking about, but they're number 2s. He's definitely, I think, top end number 2, but there's, I think, guys that we're gonna, at some point in, another podcast or that are lower on the list that I could see and probably could even put ahead of him. Max Fried being one of them, like we just talked about. He's a number 2 on his own team, but probably would want him ahead of Nola. So
yeah, ADP 44. That's a premium that I don't want to pay for Aaron Nola. I think if he's going later in like maybe the 6th round, I'll probably take him like in the 6th round. But at 44, like that's
a great point.
Early for me,
you
man.
Can get other. I would rather. I hate saying the word reach, but I would almost rather reach ADP wise for some of the pitchers that are going after him at that. But I think at 44 in that range, you're going to be able to still get some good hitters. That are a lot safer, a lot more, even more upside. So I think, kind of going that route. If he is there, like you said, even a round, definitely 2 rounds later somehow, because everyone's thinking how we are, then sure, that's great. But at 44, no. I don't want
to. So right after him is Adolis Garcia, Devin Williams, Max Fried, Tarek Skubal, and Logan Webb, and then Manny Machado. So honestly, out of those 5-6 guys that I just named, I'd rather have any one of those guys rather than Aaron Nola, man.
I would take all those pitchers over Nola. I would take basically all the hitters, I think, too, actually. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, for sure.
You know what? What's really weird, though, is, okay, so usually in drafts, I like to target upcoming free agents. Like this year, I'm targeting Bregman, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, guys that are coming up on free agency in 2025. Aaron Nola hit free agency this past offseason, but his 2023 was not impressive, dude.
No.
His K percentage was down almost 5%. His expected batting average was up 30 points. His hard hit rate was up 7%. Especially on his fastball and his sinker. Opponents had a 246 batting average against his fastball, a 279 batting average against his sinker. Both of those were under 200 in 2022.
Yeah.
Velocity was basically the same compared to 2022, but his usage was a little bit different. The fastball and the curveball, they were basically switched. So his usage in 2023, his fastball was 29.4. In 2022, it was at a 33.4. His curveball was at a 31.6 in last year, and then 2022 was at a 26.5. I think Nola might have to switch back to that fastball being his primary pitch.
I was gonna say, and that could be something that, if he ends up doing that, that could be good and be a little bit beneficial for getting him. But like you said, that last year was his prove it year, and he didn't really do that. And so I would be more excited if he was if he somehow got signed to a different team, because then you're thinking, oh, maybe they're going to make those adjustments to help him get
either
back
that or like an upgraded ballpark, because Philly Stadium, Citizens Bank, it's known as a hitter's ballpark, a lot of home runs. So, batters thrive in that ballpark. Good for Bryce Harper. Good for you getting him for like $12.
Yeah.
But pitchers, unless you're like Aaron Nola from previous seasons where you're striking out like almost every dude, then it's going to be really hard to pitch in the ballpark like that.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Well, that was the show. We appreciate you guys for being here. And if you are still here, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. You can also scan that QR code in the top right corner. It will take you to all of our social medias, including Rival Fantasy. And we will leave the Rival Fantasy link in the description below. Kevmo, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for stepping in for Javi today.
Absolutely.
This was our starting pitcher rankings for 2024. And next week, we will be back for 14 to like 26-ish, hopefully, something like that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.